got some recording. And we are recording now. So let's talk about loops. Loop, like I said, some kind of structure where the same code repeats and repeats and repeats as long as some condition is true. And again, for those of you that have taken Java, the same two structures exist. They are, number one, the while loop. Okay, the basic structure of the while loop is while, I'll put it in italics, while, and I'll say some Boolean, this code repeats. So as long as the Boolean is true, this block is going to execute over and over and over and over. So in practice, what this means if you don't want an infinite loop, something in the loop block has to change the Boolean, okay? Because otherwise what's going to happen? What's going to happen is it's just going to keep on going and going. So, for example, typical structure would be here something like while, oh, so let's do this, say var x equals 0, and we'll do while var is, I don't know, less than or equal to 0. Say get user age. Okay, so you have some input mechanism, asks the user to input their age. Obviously, age cannot be 0, cannot be a negative number, right? Especially like if you're doing it in milliseconds, whatever. Then yeah, that would be something you would check. So you get the user age, x equals age, and then that's, oh well, I didn't mean to cut off that bracket. You get the idea. Okay, so again, from here, the input will update x, allowing you to exit the loop block eventually. Okay, we could do something like this in JavaScript itself. We can pop over here. Let's go to our try it now. Try it editor. Boom. Okay. So here there's a method, a function in Java called prompt, JavaScript called prompt. Okay, and we're gonna do something in here. Now you have to be very careful with these squiggly brackets. They once you mess those up, nothing's gonna work right. So we'll do our first thing. There, let's say age. We'll do age equals prompt. We have this prompt function that we can assign some text to it. So we'll do what for our prompt, we'll say, please enter your age, and it'll create a little pop-up window. Okay, we'll put in a default value of nothing. Okay, so we have that, and then we'll say assign it document.getElementById demo equals age. So this JavaScript, we'll eventually do a while loop. That's fine. So let's just run this. Please enter your age. That's our little pop-up. Very elegant. What is my age? Well, let's lie. We'll say I'm 999. Okay, and there it is. There's our number, right? 999. So that's easy. But let's put it into a loop. Let's embed it in a loop. So we say var age equals 0. We can say while age is less than or equal to 0, right? I'm going to put the squiggly brackets here, even though strictly speaking for this kind of statement I don't need to. Okay, just to keep the code very clear. So age will do this. And if age is 0 or a negative number, it'll keep on popping up the pop-up. Okay. Otherwise, please enter your age. Negative 23. Well, it doesn't like that. Please enter your age. 0. Doesn't like that. Okay. 58. There it is. Easy, right? So that's the while loop. So essentially, every time, right, first it checks this. If this condition is true, then it's going to execute the loop. Okay. After it executes the loop, it comes back up here, says, hey, is this condition still true? And if it is, it executes the loop again. Eventually, we reach a point where this is not true, and then we skip over, right? We skip over past the loop block. That's it. Easy. Questions on that? Any questions? This is all good? Makes sense? All right. I don't see any flashing chat anything, so I assume everyone's all good. All right. The other one is the do-while loop. Okay, the do-while loop looks like this. Okay, again, in a do-while loop, it's basically the same as what you've seen in Java if you took IDS 201 with me. So the do-while loop has this format. Do okay. So as long as this Boolean is true, this block is going to keep repeating. The difference is what? It's automatically going to happen at least once. So two things. Number one, the loop will definitely iterate, right? Go through it at least once. That's the do part. It's going to do it, and then it's going to check. After each iteration, the test condition is checked. If the test condition is true, the loop block repeats. Okay, so again, difference between them, in a do-while loop, it's always going to execute the loop block at least once, and in a while loop, it might not. Okay, so for example, if I went back to my page here and I said while, so I start off with age is 0, and if I just said while age is less than 0, that's automatically going to skip right over it, because I'm going to see here first, oh, age is 0, I do the test condition, age is 0, so it's not less than 0, so the test is false, so it skips over the loop block and goes straight to displaying the 0. And there it is, right? I don't see the pop-up window. Okay, so do while and while are both useful. The do while loop guarantees it's going to go through once. The while loop is useful if, in some cases, you don't want it to iterate at least once. All right, so again, a good example of this, we can write it up. Something like do, I'll say var age, and we can do input age. Okay. While age is greater than or equal to 0. I don't know. Just say greater than 0. Oh, sorry. While age is less than or equal to 0, because we want to keep repeating. Okay, so that's a simple structure there, right? So we're automatically going to get the user input, and then if the age range is invalid, we can repeat that. And also you might say, okay, maybe we're going to assume that nobody's age can be greater than 120, right? So we also say, as if age is less than 0, then we repeat, or if the age is 120 or greater, we're going to repeat because nobody's 120 years old. I don't think anyone is in the world right now, but I didn't actually check, so yeah. Anyway, so we can do this, right? Same thing. Let's do var age. Here's a little bit of code. We can do a do while. So do, okay, age, we get the prompt, and we repeat while age is less than or equal to 0, or age is greater than or equal to 120. And then, you know, once we satisfy that condition, right, once this is false, we can pass on through the loop, right? So if age is in between that range of 1 to 119, then we can display the age in the block. So please enter my age, 999. Oh, please enter it again. Okay, 120. Oh, okay, -2. Okay, fine. 78. Boom, and there it is, 78. Okay. Questions on this? So these are our two basic loop structures, do while and while. There's also a for loop, which is a more readable format for the while loop. Okay, so here's the do while, here's the while, here's the for loop. Okay, so the idea with a for loop, again, if you've been through Java, exactly the same. So the for loop works like this. For loop is a convenient shorthand for the while loop. Okay, and the basic structure looks like this. For, so then we have an initialization, and then a test, and then whatever, then an after statement. Basically, typically an increment or other statement. Okay, this is your typical structure. And then loop block executes for every pass through the block, right? That's sort of redundant. For every, let's say, as long as test is true. So a common way this is done, so very commonly used to fill out or otherwise initialize arrays. So an array is a stack of data of the same type. And if you want to set one of those up with a bunch of default values, you might do, right? So suppose you have an array with 100 elements, and you want to initialize them all to some set value. So you could do for, right? You could do var. Well, we'll just do it up here. We'll do the var ahead of time. Var I for index equals 0. We'll do for, yeah, we could do I equals 0. We'll just repeat there. I is less than 100, I plus plus. So we're going to increment I with every pass through the loop. And then we could say array I, whatever, dot initialize. We call some initialize function on it and set it up. So something like this, basically for every element in the array, right? We'd start off at 0, we'd initialize it, we'd increment again, we'd go to 1, we'd initialize the next one, and so on. Finally, when we get to 100, which is the first non-valid index of the array, we'd be done. So since there are 100 elements, indexing starts at 0. We'd go through 0 through 99 is 100 elements. after we've done the 99th one, I is 99, we pass through the loop block, we add 1 to it, I goes up to 100, we do the test, I is less than 100. Oh, I actually is not less than 100 anymore, so we're done. So this is equivalent to a while loop, okay, which I can demonstrate down here. We basically do same thing, var I equals 0, and we do while I is less than 100. Same thing, right? Array I dot initialize I plus plus. Okay, so again, we start with I is 0. We initialize the 0th element of the array. We add 1 to I. We come back. We do the test. Okay, this is still true, so we do it for element number 1. We increment I again to 2. We come back up, do the test. Eventually, I will be at 99. We'll initialize that element of the array. We'll increment I to 100. We come up and we check, oh, I is no longer less than 100. So we're done. We skip the loop block and move on. Okay, so every statement in here, every part of this has its equivalent, right? So here's the initialization, right? Which often you can, people put in the for block, the for header as well. Here's the test, right? The test is right there as the while part. And then this statement, whatever's in the loop block goes here. And then this last bit, what happens afterwards, same thing, right? It's all there. They do the same thing. It's just a for is convenient because you can just look at the header, and if it's a pretty standard thing, you say, oh, start at 0, go to 100, initialize all these things. Great, I understand. It's usually a little bit quicker to read and understand than this, and it's more compact, so there's less lines of screen that you have to worry about. Okay, good. I hope that's good for everyone. We're going to go back here for a moment. Oh, we get this. Yeah. Okay. Good. Questions on any of this? We got our loops. Okay. Well, then there you have it. All right, so let's do a little bit of an example here. I'm going to dig into the try it editor. So W3 schools, try it, loop, JavaScript. Okay, we just lift an example here. So here's let's do the for loop. Okay, so again here we have our paragraph with the ID demo. We have our script. Careful, dog, that's a screen. Okay, so we start off with some text, an empty text string there. We have our variable I, and then this is our loop header. So we're doing a for loop. So we'll say here, I equals 0 is our initialization. We're going to continue as long as I is less than 5. And after each iteration of the loop, we're going to increment I by 1. So each time we're going to construct this string. So we'll say text plus equals the number, blah, blah, blah is that. And then at the end, they're going to display it all. So what we're doing here is concatenating. We're adding on some extra HTML to all of this, right? So text, we're adding first, the number is this, and then BR for adding a line of, a break. So we're just basically doing a carriage return on that. So we're writing on a new line. Okay, and if we run this, oh yeah, I don't have to press anything. If I wanted to change it to have it go up to like, say, 19, boom, there it is. I get a whole bunch more stuff. Or if I just want to have it go 1, I do the first one. If I set this condition to be something that's going to be false right off the bat, because I know initially I is 0, so if I test whether it's 1, it's not going to run at all. It's just going to skip over. It's not going to do anything. Okay, so there's the for loop. Now, let's think of something interesting we might do with this. This is not very exciting. Let's do a for loop. Let's create an array. Okay, so that's my my next thing here. So objects have data and methods, right? Data and functions, but they call them methods when they're specific to an object. So, for example, if I have this var my object that's going to be an object, if I want to set it up as having a bunch of attributes, this is the standard notation. So the name of the attribute, a colon, and then its value, the name of the next attribute, and so on. Okay, and however many attributes you have. An array is just going to be a stack of objects. So if you want to, an individual object will have all of its data, right, all of its attributes enclosed in squiggly brackets, and that's how you define an individual object. An array uses square brackets, and you assign all the different objects in the array. So let's build a simple one. We're going to build some objects. Okay, so let's call this fun with objects. Okay, and I guess I'll just use names for people who are in my view immediately. So we're gonna do a script here. So the first thing, we'll create some individual objects. Okay, so var person one, we'll go student one. Okay, student one equals, right? So let's look at here, right? We have the squiggly brackets and the attributes. So squiggly brackets, let's just put them both in first, and we'll do an attribute first name, okay? And that can be, I'm seeing Bridget here, okay? And then last name, okay. And do a second one. Var student 2 equals, okay, and here I see another student, first name Jake, last name Crutchfield, okay. Okay, I'll do one more. Let's do 4. 4 is a good number. It's how many students I can see at the moment. Earbaz. Okay, and then last one. Okay, so these are our students. Now, if I wanted to, I could make a loop and display all of the student attributes, right? But it would be really hard to do that, right? What I could do text var tag. I guess I need to var text equals nothing, text plus equals student one dot first name plus space plus student one dot last name. Okay, and this, whoop, didn't do that. Oh yeah, let's see. What do we have going on here? I'm sure there's some simple thing to this. I don't know. I'm going to keep it simple, so let's see what, whoop. No, a little problem there. I'm not reading the attribute correctly, huh? Word. Oh, sorry. This random stray bracket here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so like I said, this is what often happens in JavaScript. You'll code up some stuff, you'll have some squiggly brackets, you'll forget about one, and then you'll be, you'll see your stuff won't work. So best way to do is try to get rid of stuff so you can focus on the few things that are there. There's a little bit of debugging practice for you. Okay, and that should work. There we go. And then we'll do the other 3 students here. Let's add them all in. But you can see, I would hope, that adding all of these students individually by hand is going to be a colossal pain, right? If you have a long list of students or a custom list of students, this is not anything you want to deal with, right? Imagine having to go into the web page and update this for everything. It doesn't want us to do that. Fine. But this is going to run them all together. Yeah, see. Let's see if I can put in a backslash. Yeah, it does that, but it's not really good. Okay. Let me see here. I mean, the BR tag was working. I think that would work. No, doesn't like that either. All right, we got a little bit of weirdness, so that's fine. I'm just going to leave it here on one row for the moment. We're going to make a new line. Let's see. I'm not sure what is going on here with this. Just a minute ago, we did have the JavaScript W3 schools for loop. Okay, we're going to lift the same one again. Oh, but duh. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay. DR. Yeah. All right. Look. Okay. So we're going to do this. We're going to add in some new lines. All right. I guess we don't need that one at the end, but that's fine. Whatever. Okay. So the point is, it would be a big hassle to have to do this if I have a large and variable list of names. If I want to update some stuff, I want to have students be different students, I have to get in there and specifically code every variable for every student. It's a big hassle, right? So what is much easier is to do this, is to make a for loop. So for var I equals 0, I is less than 4, let's say the number of students is 4, and I plus plus. And then for each of those, I do this. I assign it to an array element. Okay, so I can do that. I can create a new array. So let's say var students equals, right? And I have my list of students here. So student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4. Here I'm custom building an array. And there's easier ways to do this too, but this will do for a start. And then for each one of these, I can just do text plus equals students at I dot first name. Okay, and I'll do a plus BR. And here I'm displaying some of the extra ones. So here I'll do plus BR again. Okay, so here, instead of having to do each one of these individually, which again, if I have a very long list of students, it's going to be a big hassle. Instead, right, I can just create this array that contains objects and then reference them through the array. I could say, oh, the first one, the second one, third one, whatever. Now, where this makes a lot of sense, right? So first of all, let me add, normally, I would read this data from some external source, right? I wouldn't be building it all in the program. So what you see here, where here I build the objects, and then I build the array. Well, yeah, typically you'd read your array from some external source. So it would just be brought into your page as a pre-existing array, and then you could work with it. So the real advantage of arrays, imagine that you've loaded an array with, I don't know, 10,000 objects. And your user wants to find some subset of them that match some criteria. Okay, you have a bunch of stuff on your page, and you want to say, for example, figuring out which one the user clicked, or identifying whatever, a set, what should I say? I don't know, a set of names meeting the match criteria, right? So all the people whose names start with S, for example. Anything like that. If you had to code that by referencing specific objects, you'd need 10,000 logical tests, right? Which, again, would be very tedious to code and take up a lot of space on the page. And number three, not be very customizable, right? If you wanted to change, if you wanted to use 10,001, for example, you'd have to get in there and write a new web page. So you can only work with clearly predefined parameters. So that would be very bad. But with an array, you can just reference the length of the array, right? Each array has a length attribute to scan the entire thing. So very easy to code, right? One loop to scan through the whole array. Hardly takes up any space, right? Just a few lines, no matter how big the array is, and very customizable. Because you can read the array size from any array using the same pre-existing code. It doesn't matter the size of the array, you're going to run the code the same way. So arrays are your friend. That is the takeaway. Okay, so simple stuff. Move on a little bit. Okay, so that's the basic format. We've seen simple objects now. We've seen simple arrays. We've done a little stuff with them. Now, one thing I've mentioned before is that compared to Java, JavaScript is geared to be much easier to code, but it does sacrifice some runtime efficiency. It's generally not going to run as fast. And that's okay, because the programs that run on the web pages are relatively small and simple, and they don't need to be super optimized. Okay, so one of the things in JavaScript, it automatically lets you do all sorts of simple stuff with array. In Java, these are implemented through separate classes that operate along with arrays. But in Java, they're just built, JavaScript rather, they're just built right into the language. So for example, if you want to add a new object to an array, you could just do push with that object. Okay, so we could do that. We could implement that in our code here. So instead of doing this, instead of building the array, we could say var students, okay, and then just add on new things to it. We could say students dot push student one, and then do the same thing, students dot push student 2. Students dot push student 3. And students dot push student 4. Okay, we run this. I didn't like that. Let's see. We gotta pull this. We gotta pull this first line. Yeah. Oh. Let me do that. It's not gonna like that. There's something going on here. It's not even letting me, there we go. Let's do this. Okay, so there we have it. We're going through the length of the array and getting 1. Let's try to push 1. There we go. I don't know what was going on there before. Something was a little strange. Okay, so I can just add on these things one at a time. Okay, I can just push these new objects onto the array. Now, what you would see in real life, instead of doing, you know, creating the things and making a whole bunch of individual push statements, what you would probably do is something like this. So you have setup connection to some external data source, right? Server, whatever, which has the data as a file or list of some kind. And then you would do something like while list dot has next, right? While there's another one, array dot push, you know, list dot get next, right? So some pseudocode here, but basically check if more objects remain to be added, right? Make sure the list is not done. That's what this part here is doing. So you have some kind of list type, has next type method to just say, is there still stuff in this list? And of course, if there is, and if there is, then push it into the array. Okay, so like that. So get next, and then just keep on going. So eventually you'll fill out the array with all the data that you have. And again, this is very compact. Normally in the web page, you would not construct all the objects and add them to the array. You'd pull them from some other source. So for example, right, example of how that might work. Suppose you go to some site like Yahoo Finance, right, and you enter a query for stock prices from some range, like 11.99 to 12.31.99. Okay, so that's one thing you could do is you could pull the list of daily stock price data, and add each entry to the array. And then you have it there as a set of JavaScript objects you can work with. Okay. So, other stuff, add a new element at the start, right? So you have this unshift function if you want to push something in there. If you want to pop an element off the end or remove an element from the start. So yeah, these are different ways to do it. So add an element at the end, right, it'll put it at the next available index. So if your array is size 4, it'll put the new object at index 4. This one pushes it off at the start, pushes everything else down 1. Okay, so if we draw a picture, these are our basic array operations. So let's do that, and then we'll make some lines. Okay. So push, pop, shift, unshift. Okay. So suppose this is our array, and this is our index 0, whoop, and this is our index length -1. Okay, and whatever else is going on in here, we don't really care. So push adds on the new object here, right? Pop sorry. Where's my pop? Removes the element from the end. Where's my paint? Okay, so here, push and pop are old ones that deal with the end of the stack. Okay, but here I'll make the text remove. Gotta wait for this to clear. Okay, push will add. I mean, I guess I should be a little more clear. Here's going to be a new one, right? So push will create a new one here. Pop, on the other hand, pop is going to remove this one. Okay, so push adds one to the end, pop removes it, shift and unshift, right? On the other hand, shift here is going to remove an element from the start, unshift is going to add one from the start. So in the case of shift, let's use blue, I guess. Remove and unshift is basically going to do something like create one here and then do a copy of the rest of the list right down to here. And do some lines for that as well. Okay, so there's my unshift. Okay, so that's what it does. So again, if you're removing something, of course, you can only remove what's already there. If you're adding something, if you add it at the end, you don't need to shift any of the other elements. If you add it at the start, you push all the other elements forward. So JavaScript rather has those built into the language. They're pretty easy to use. Okay, if I wanted to, I could go verify. I run this, I display everything. Okay, if I wanted to, I could pop some elements off the stack, right? So I could do, for example, students pop, right? Just do that. And then same thing. I do this, I guess I should, I'm just going to keep it simple. do the pop here. Okay. So then I'll only display the 3 students at the end. There we go, because I added one to the list, but then I popped it. If I popped another one, I would only show the 2. Easy. Okay. Questions on any of this stuff? This was what I wanted to cover today. So if you're interested in these, again, you can look up the JavaScript array methods. They're all here, right? Your basic ones. They have some other ones like join that you can pull stuff into string data if you want, but they're all here. Shift, unshift. You can do changing elements that talks about the indexing. I guess I'll take a minute to talk about that. You can also do delete, right, to get rid of some of those. Okay. But delete can make holes in the array. So if you want to keep your array as a constant set of objects, of course, things like pop and shift are better. Okay, and there are some other ones too. Of course, you read on, you can find things like splice, for example. You can merge arrays. So there's lots of handy functions in JavaScript that you can do this stuff very quickly without getting too deep into the nuts and bolts of how arrays work. Okay. So let me just mention again, since I didn't really go into it, just like in Java or most other languages, every element in an array has an index number. That allows referencing the array element without knowing exactly what's inside the array. Okay, so think of it like a number on a file cabinet. Like element 0 is the top drawer. Element 1 is the next drawer down, and so on. Okay, so you say, whatever's in that drawer, give it to me. That's what's in index 0. Whatever's in index 1, that's the next drawer down, and so on. Okay, so that's the idea. So for any array, indexing starts at 0 and goes to length -1. So if you have an array of 1 element, the first index is 0. The last index is 1 minus 1, also equals 0, which makes sense, right? There's only 1 element that's going to have the same index. Likewise, if you have an array of, I don't know, 1 billion elements, okay, again, the first index is 0, the last index is 1 billion minus 1 equals 999,999,999. Okay. So that's the indexing. Now we'll do some more of this JavaScript 3. We'll get into a little bit more detail of all this. We'll do some fun stuff with objects and arrays, and we'll implement some HTML structures like put things in tables, that sort of thing. And we'll be able to dynamically edit those tables. But this is enough to get started with for today. I think we're good. And let's see. I'm pretty sure there's an assignment I have to post today. That sounds right. Let's take a peek at that. Most of these weeks, there's going to be an assignment. Yep, so I post the second assignment sometime today. That'll be up there. Okay. So I'm going to stop the share now, and then I'll open it up for questions. All right, questions on any of this stuff? We covered some good material here, basically just loops and arrays, but we took our time with it, gave some examples. Questions on any of this stuff? Nothing? It all makes sense to everybody? We're all good? I guess if you've done Java, none of this is too big of a surprise.
Yeah, it's pretty clear and straightforward for me.
Well, that's good. Anyone else? Everyone feels comfortable doing some JavaScript coding? I'll post up the assignment today, and then I guess you can all get started right away while it's fresh in your heads. Okay, that's all I got for you then. Oh, here's some chat stuff. Okay, what's happening? Yeah, okay, sure. Let's go. All right. Well, talk to you later then. See you next week. Have a good weekend. All right. We could talk. Oh. Okay, that's yeah. We can if you want, I'll just stick around for a minute, Michelle, and you can ask me whatever, because here we're both on Zoom. There's no need to set up a separate meeting. Labs are for you. There's Monday and Friday. Don't remember the scheduled time, but I can ask the system. Yep. Okay. All right. Do I allow extensions? On the first assignment, it would be late at this point, so you got to get that one due to, you got to get that one out today. But otherwise, yeah, extensions would normally be offered. That's always, extensions are always, oops, bound by the 48-hour advance notice rule. Okay. So if you want to get that one for the full credit, you got to get it done today at this point. Unless you have some crisis that puts you in the hospital, I don't know. Don't do it. It's not worth it for just an assignment, but yeah. Okay. Yes.
Are you able? Sorry.
One second. I'll be right with you. All requests for extensions should go through the TA. Something got typed wrong there. Through the TA, because she grades the homeworks. Okay. Michelle, what's happening?
I'm kind of having difficulty coding the button for number 4 on our assignment that's due today, because I already tried doing the div tag, but I couldn't make the button. You said
Right. Okay. Div tags here. I'll do a screen share. Div tags are always unnecessary. Okay. They don't serve any function other than grouping things together and making a little space between things. So in that sense, they're kind of like a paragraph tag, but they don't really do anything on the web page itself. So you never need to worry about the div. I know the assignment says to make one, right? But the div should not have an effect. What might happen is that, here, I'm going to I'll do a different one because I was actually going to save that and post it. Okay. So let's say you're making a div. Okay, so here's a div, and here we close out the div. Okay, it's going to look, I don't know, let's put in some text here. Okay, so we have a div, it has some stuff in it. Now, if I want to put a button, I just put a button here. And if I want to put some text on the button, they click me. There it is, there's a button. That should be all you have to do. I mean, unless if you have some stray, you know, pointy brackets or some other issues somewhere, I don't know, but you know, the button itself, that's all you need to have for the button.
Yes, but I included script because you said on the homework you also want the button to turn from click me to click.
Yeah, yeah. If you're having a script, the script should happen in its own separate tag.
Oh.
Right? That's the best way to do it. I mean, yeah, you can embed scripts in other tags, but there's no good reason to do that.
Mm.
Okay? Now, if you do something like this, right, if you like cross the tags over, something like that, that'll ruin your whole day. But the script should be its own separate thing. You can always, you know, you want to keep your script as a separate thing. You don't want to embed script tags within other tags.
All right.
So div just really serves as a divider.
Hold on, that's a little
function.
quiet there. Let me dial up the volume. What's up?
Sorry. So div just serves as a divider. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a grouping for other tags. So,
Okay.
for example, one thing you can do if you want to set a custom style on a div, it's an easy mechanism for doing that, right? You want to update the style sheet for a particular div tag on your thing, then everything within that div tag is going to follow that format. So that can be a handy thing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor.
Yep, sure. Okay, anything else?
Are we able to send an email later to ask you if you can check like if the JavaScript is correct? Because I've been trying to change it for a while, but
I mean, you can, but you know, it's probably not going to do too much debugging for you. But you know, there's a. If you go to Blackboard, right? We got this code demos here, and we got some web math. This has all the basic things, right? So you have a button. There's this on click. Make sure you're doing that correctly, right? Have the stuff in quotes. Just build around from that, right? Like if you wanted to do something, for example, make something change, okay, then you would just change the attribute of that. I mean, we'll do a simple one, right? On click equals, right? So make sure the format is correct. On click equals this. And we could do, I don't know, ID equals D. Document dot get element. Just call a method. Call it F. So function F document dot get element by ID. Okay. Dot inner HTML equals, I don't know, clicked. I mean, something simple like that, right? These are the places where students typically go wrong. Number one, they don't have the ID in the right place or on the right tag. The on click is not configured correctly. For example, maybe you don't have both quotes there. Often people will mix up single quotes and double quotes. So again, the rule there, if it's within an HTML tag, always use double quotes. But if it's within some JavaScript stuff, always use single quotes, because that way you won't have, you know, crossover there.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, got it. Thank you.
sure. Those are very common mistakes. Yeah, your code all looks right, but the browser can't read it. All right, so maybe that's your thing. Maybe it sounded like you had a moment of realization there.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Okay, what'd I miss? There's people still here. I am surprised. Okay, let's stop the share. All right, container. Yeah, pretty much. That's container, right? Yeah, okay. That's basically what a div is. So it's handy for some stuff, but it doesn't display any content on the screen. But yeah, it's a container. Okay, so good. Well, that's all I got for you then. I'll get this assignment out there and people can get started on it. I'll see you all next week. Have a good weekend. Get some coffee. All right.